We still are on the tangible cusp of when we still had those type of facilities where you were committed and you were lived there for life. But I'm going to show you what my life was like, and we're going to kind of take a journey this entire day. You know, I was able to turn my disability into my ability, thanks to my parents who were the strongest people in my life. You know, we all have disabilities, and when you come out of this, you're going to wonder what's yours. But I grew up poor. This is a picture of my house when I grew up. This is a one-bedroom house. It was one room. There were no walls. I had a little partition in the back, and I kind of grew up there. And I took my kids there last summer, and my oldest son, Brady, said to me, "Dad, why did you choose to live here?" And I said, "Brady, I didn't choose to live here, but I could choose where I ended up going." And so then from that day, I had a dream. I had two dreams. One, I wanted to play professional baseball. The other is I wanted to work in television. And if you don't believe it, you have to see what a young kid in those days wanted to do and what I wanted to be when I grew up.
I'd like to become a professional athlete, either in hockey or in baseball. I talked to a Yankee scout, and he said, "There's no really reality of you ever getting in. The odds are 30 trillion to 1 because guys with legs don't make it, and they have to be the best. You have to be the best in the world, which means you have to be 10 times best." And I just said, "Well, you can't take my dream away from me."
Also playing for the Saints is a guy by the name of Dave Stevens. He happens to work right here at ESPN. Dave is on vacation and decided to spend his time off playing ball.
For your St. Paul Saints, the second baseman, number 32, Dave Stevens.
So again, at a young age, I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to play professional baseball, and so I had that opportunity in 1996. But growing up as a kid, you know, you don't think as a kid without legs that somebody's going to be able to overcome and do these kind of things, you know. But I had two wonderful, loving parents that raised me, that taught me and instilled in me that sports was my way to overcome my disability. So I took it to each level I possibly could. I started in high school with wrestling and becoming a state champion wrestler, where I learned that I could beat these leggies that I call you people that have two legs walking around. And I started playing baseball, and I started playing football, and all these things I started having successes. There were no rule books or manuals or anything that said, this is how you teach a guy without legs how to do these things. I had to go out. I had to learn how to run on my hands, how to pull myself up when I was doing these things, how to work out, and how to get the most out of what I had, which wasn't very much. You know, I started out when I was about this high. Well, I guess I'm about the same right now. But, you know, I learned that, you know, these opportunities were going to have to be made by me. And there's some advantages to being down on the ground like this when you're on the football field, because when you walk by the cheerleaders, it's not a bad thing, you know? So things aren't all bad down here on the ground. But I took it to the next level. I had the opportunity to come back right here to Dallas and try out for the Dallas Cowboys. I didn't make it, obviously, but it was still another opportunity that I took, you know? And then it was just on to working in television. When I had that chance to get on TV and work for a TV station and report and do those things. And that took me to ESPN, where I worked for 20 years. I've won 7 Emmy Awards working at ESPN. And again, it wasn't about my disability, it was about my ability. And it was just amazing to think that I had come so far when I dreamed of playing professional baseball. And having that opportunity in St. Paul to play with the Saints and to be teammates with a superstar named Darryl Strawberry, who took me under his wing. And we became lifelong friends. And he made it back to the major leagues. And I went back to my regular job, but it was still an amazing time in my life. And I look forward to the things that I continue to do in my life. You know, once I got past that and worked on my career, I did that, but now I've come back out of retirement. And now you can find me playing football with the Wounded Warrior Amputee football team, where we get to travel around the country. And I get to play football with my good buddy Snoop Dogg, you know? So I've come full circle, where at 51, I never thought I would still be doing these things. I'm not good with the flags, but I'm good at tackling, so that's what I do. But also now, I'm playing ice hockey, another sport I never dreamed I would play. And it's wonderful to fly down the ice and to just feel that, you know, wind and everything and crash into people and punch them. But the biggest part of my life now is working with kids. I've turned it around where now I get to work with disabled kids. And I work for the Disability Dream and Do Foundation. And we put on baseball camps for little kids, kids that are trapped inside their body, that will never know what it's like to be normal. So I've come full circle, and I really, really enjoy what I'm doing. And now I try to go around the country and talk to people and tell them, you know, that it's okay to be a little different. It's okay to have something wrong with you, because we all have something that we can give back to people. You know, there's a lot of good in all of us. You just have to find it. You have to bring it out. So was my dream impossible? Well, to the people on the outside, maybe it was. This little kid without legs. You know, he can't do all these things, but you know what? I did it. And anybody can achieve your dreams if you put the effort into it. If you believe in yourself and you have the support from those people that love you most, your parents, your teachers, all those kind of people, you can do anything that you want to do in life. You know, there's a saying that says, life is made of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Now, you've seen me play sports and you think, oh, that's cool, this is amazing, you know, blah, blah, blah. You have to think about the day-to-day things. You have to think about what my struggles are away from the cameras and away from when you see. So I'm going to take you into my private world, because I live in your world. You don't live in mine. Life is made of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. So how do I do laundry? How do I do groceries? How do I do the day-to-day tasks that I do? You know, you have to think outside the box. Again, there is no manual that shows you how do you do this? How do you do laundry? How do you do groceries? How do you take care of 3 boys that I now have? I'm going to take you inside a little private thing that I'm not really comfortable with showing, but I want to prove my point. I've just brought home 15 bags of groceries, all right? My kids aren't there to take it upstairs, so how would I do it? Well, you go one by one. You put a bag in your mouth. You jump on your skateboard, and you start moving up the hill, you know, and then a bag busts, and a bottle falls out. This wasn't planned. This video was just shot. The bottle comes out, figure it out, balance it out, continue up the hill. Again, you want to make sure that you've got your ice cream, because you want to get it up first so it's not turning into a big mushy shake that your kids aren't going to want. But again, you see the steak in my mouth, you see the bottles in my mouth, you see the effort that I have to put into these things. And this is just the internal battles that I have to deal with. The people don't think outside the box. When people have disabilities, you've got to create a way to do things that are outside the box. It's like that in the classroom. It's like that in your job. It's like that. It's not just me without legs. It's everything that you guys do in life. We have to think and associate different ways to do everything, and that's how you'll be a success. Because the only person that is holding you back is the one that is shaking their head in the mirror. You have it inside of you. All of you have it inside of you to bring it out, to be as whole as I am. You just have to work and think and battle and just do it. You just have to go out and do it. And it's the same thing when I'm doing laundry. You know, I start step at a time, just like life. You got to take a step at a time, and you balance it up, and you put the clothes in there, and you make sure that each one stays balanced so it doesn't fall on top of you, and you have 2 hours of work down the tube because everything falls down on the floor. So again, I'm not complaining. You know, this is how I live my life. I'm not a hero, I'm not anybody special, I'm just Dave Stevens, and this is the only way I know how to live my life. And that's why I hope all of you, you can't allow your weaknesses to prevent you from greatness. I have had an amazing life. I have 7 Emmys at home. I have 3 beautiful boys with 2 legs that are all now playing baseball. I live in your world, you don't live in mine. And you have to think about that. When you see people, when you judge people, when you look at that old man who can barely walk and get upstairs, or you look at that person that may be a little overweight and has trouble getting from their car, or getting to those kind of things, you know, we all have our internal struggles. We all have the things that we have to overcome. We all have things that battle. But it hasn't been perfect along the way for me either. I've had those internal struggles. You know, when I go back to my youth and I think about the most important people in my life, my parents, that really instilled in me the person that I am today. And at 18 years old, an hour after I drove away from Phoenix, Arizona to go to Augsburg College in Minnesota, my mom died from cancer. My mom died from cancer after I left. And the doctor said, your mother held on to see her baby leave home and graduate. And I called my dad from New Mexico when I was on the road, driving in my nice big 1978 LTD, and I called Dad and I said, Dad, what's going on? How's Mom? And he's like, Dave, Mom passed. And I wanted to turn around. He's like, you stay there. Your mother loved you so much, she wanted to continue on. So I drove straight to Minnesota. I got to college, started the semester. I wasn't enjoying it, things weren't going good. So I decided to hang it up and go back to Arizona. And I was struggling with myself. I couldn't find what was going on, what I wanted to do. And then suddenly my dad got cancer, and he died a year and a half later. And so the two most important people in my life were gone. And when you lose your support system, you don't always make the right choices. And those choices included drugs. So I started doing cocaine and hanging around with the wrong people and doing cocaine a lot. I mean, I became an addict. And I'll never forget, in this January day in 1987, I'm sitting in a jacuzzi at about 2:30 in the morning, and I've done probably an 8-ball, which is about, I think, 2.5 grams of cocaine, all by myself. And I'm just coked out of my brain. And I'm sitting in this tub, and I remember looking up at the sky. And I looked up, and I'm looking at heaven right now, and I'm thinking, my parents are looking down on me and seeing what a failure I was. And then I started thinking all those coaches that believed in me, that spent that special extra time working with me to help me become the athlete, and I've let everybody down. And I'm sitting in this jacuzzi, you know, as a drug addict, not in college, not having a job, not doing anything with my life. And I looked up and I said, I can't live like this. There's too many people that believed in me and loved me and expected me to become something special that I never thought I was. So that very next morning, I picked up the phone and I called Julian Foss, who was the person that gave me my first scholarship at Augsburg College. And I said, Mr. Foss, if you believe in me, could you give me one more chance to try to make a life for myself? Well, he gave me a one-way ticket. I packed a bag, left my car, and flew to Minnesota, and I have been drug-free ever since. And I got my job back at the TV station, and I went to college and I started playing football, and that led to amazing things. A tryout with the Dallas Cowboys, a tryout with the Cincinnati Reds, a chance to play minor league baseball, a job at ESPN. I put those demons aside, and again, I had to overcome another thing. And it's not like I'm questioning God, because, you know, if I'm some sort of practical joke and said, God, I'm gonna make this kid without legs, watch this, you know, that kind of thing, I am so happy who I am. I wouldn't want to be any other way. I am glad that I don't have legs. I don't want an operation to put legs on me. I don't want to wear artificial legs. Now, I did wear artificial legs back in the day because I thought I had to be like you leggies. I thought I had to be equal and eye level and look you in the eye and work with you and be accepted by you as I'm dragging this dead weight on these crutches. But one day in 2007, I got hit by a drunk driver, and it separated my shoulder and tore my rotator cuff, and the doctor put me in and sewed up everything and said, you probably shouldn't play sports anymore. But I said, you know what, I still have a lot of life to live and things that I still want to do. So I continued to work at ESPN. I got involved with the Wounded Warrior amputee football team. Now I'm working for the Dave Clark Foundation and really trying to make a difference and an impact. And I, you know, left ESPN a couple of years ago, and this is what I do, try to talk to people and let them know that it's okay. You know, as I said, I turned my ability into I turned my disability into my ability. And we all have disabilities. Our eyes might be bad. We might have diabetes. We might have some ailment. You know, we all have disabilities. But my challenge is to you is, what is your disability and how are you going to overcome it? There's no wisdom that can tell you how to do these things. Sometimes you have to work your way through these amazing journeys and these travels. There's an amazing man, his name was Zig Ziglar. You may have heard of him. He's an amazing speaker. If you ever get a chance to watch him and do what he says, and the amazing messages that he had along the way. He said, it's not what happens to you that determines how far you will go in life. It's how you handle what happens to you. You know, I was dealt this. This is my normal. This is what I've had to live with. This is what I've had to overcome. You know, but there's also those things along the way that has really taken its toll. I remember when I was in high school, my senior year, I'm playing in a baseball game, and we're playing our biggest rivals, and we are trailing in the game. It's Parker, Arizona. It's 112 degrees outside. It's hot on a nice summer day in Arizona in April. And I come up to bat with the bases loaded. And all of a sudden, I look behind me, and this guy in the stands, he's a big, heavy-set guy. He's got a wife-beater t-shirt on with the armpit stains of yellow and just all this hair flowing over, and just this big, giant guy. He starts screaming, That's cheap baseball. This is ridiculous. This is low rent baseball. He shouldn't be allowed to play. And he's just screaming relentlessly as the parents start moving away from him in the stands. And I look at my coach at third base, and I'm like,